Thank you for joining us today. I'm seeing this is our international trading internationally webinar today, and we have Poonam, who's in London City Airport, so that's very international today. Jamie and I are in Edinburgh. It's a bit mizzly drizzly in Edinburgh today, so hopefully a few of you have got kind of a nice sunny day. Mind you, I always think if it is a bit of a mizzly drizzly day, we get more attendees on our webinar, so it's good for us. So just wait a couple of minutes till everybody arrives. So thank you for coming along. This is our Unlocking Global Markets Support for Women-Led Businesses webinar. We've added this session on this week because it's International Trade Week, which is running from the 3rd to the 7th of November. And just a little bit of housekeeping. Today, we are recording this session, and the reason we're recording it is these panel webinars, we edit and tidy them up and then we add them to our Business Gateway YouTube channel. So we'll be sending out a link to everybody with the follow-up email to a link to our YouTube channel. I also wanted to sort of highlight, and I'll put a link in the chat once we get going to our YouTube channel, because we do have a lot of other sessions that we've recorded as well, including a series called Inspire Her that we ran over the summer. And such sessions like about break free from procrastination and, confidence and things like that. So if any of you are interested in those sessions, they're on our YouTube channel. As I said, I'm just going to go through a little bit of housekeeping. Everybody's muted on entry, and that's just because we're expecting about 50 people on the call today, so don't want too much background noise. Questions, please, into the chat. We'll hopefully have a time for questions about 10 minutes at the end. And as I said, we'll be sending you out a follow-up email. I'll also be putting a link in to how to contact your local Business Gateway office, just in case anybody's not already been in touch with their local Business Gateway office and wants to get in touch and make an appointment with their business advisors. I'll send a link to that. So to get going, we're at 3 minutes past, so hopefully everybody that's joined us is here already. I'd like to hand over to Jamie, who's going to introduce this session and set out what we're going to be doing today. So my colleague, Jamie Fowler from Business Gateway.
Great, thanks very much, Sally, and welcome to everyone. Thank you very much for your time today in joining us. As I said, my name is Jamie Fowler. I'm the Customer Service and Partnerships Manager for the Business Gateway National Unit, and myself and Sally and our colleagues in our team work to deliver the programme of webinars across the country. And delighted to be having this session today with two very, very exciting guests to cover our topic on international trade, and I'm sure we'll have some very kind of inspiring stories. Poonam, I'll maybe come to you first to get an introduction from you. Can I ask you maybe just to tell us kind of first where you are, just to kind of, Sally mentioned you're obviously in City Airport at the moment, and just a little bit about you and a little about your business as well.
Yes, thank you. Jay, I've been in London for the past 2 days, and that's for attending delegations which came from India. So I'm making my way back to Scotland, and I'm in London City Airport. I hope that the background noise is not too annoying. So just bear with me on that. I am Poonam Gupta. I'm the CEO and founder of Digital Company Limited and SAP Holdings, a group of companies working in various industries. I started my business back in 2003 in Scotland. We are headquartered in Plymouth, and my company buys and sells paper in 60 countries and is still 90% export oriented. Did you guys hear me? Because I just saw a comment that said, can't hear me.
Yeah, thanks, man. I think it's just maybe a little bit of the background noise there that's making it a little bit difficult to hear, but I think we managed to catch most of that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so yes, thank
you. Thanks, Poonam. And Crystal, I'll maybe come to you next just to tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about the support that Scottish Development International provide as well.
Yeah, thanks, Jamie. So, hello everyone. I'm Christelle Cluny. I'm the Stakeholder Engagement Manager for Scottish Development International. So, for those who don't know who we are, Scottish Development International, we are the international arm of Scottish Enterprise. So, Scottish Enterprise is the Economic Development Agency for Scotland. And with SDI, short for Scottish Development International, we work very closely with the Highland and Highland Enterprise and the South of Scotland Enterprise as well. And we are here to deliver support for companies who want to international export either their product or their services overseas. So myself, I've been with SDI for about 20 years now in various roles. I've been an advisor with companies. I've been leading on overseas missions and exhibitions. Prior to that, I've worked in the private sector in the food and drink industry, selling smoked salmon mostly into European markets. So that's my background.
That's brilliant. Thank you very much. And Poonam, I could see you moving around there to maybe try and find a better spot. Are you kind of settled now? Are you okay for me to come to you with the first question?
Yes, I was just trying to see if I could find, because where I was, it was getting louder and louder. I was just trying to see. Is it better now?
Yes, that's much better. Thank you. Yeah, and really appreciate that. And yeah, thank you again, both to you and Christelle for those introductions. And Poonam, I'll just come to you with the kind of first question to get us started. And really just to kind of ask what inspired you to take your business into international markets, and maybe tell us a little bit more about how you got started, those first steps that you took to get going.
So I arrived in Scotland in 2002, and I was applying for jobs, but I couldn't find a job because I had no experience in the UK, even though I have a double degree in economics and management. So I started playing with the idea of what can I do. So there were many ideas that I researched. And I guess something that always fascinated me about international trade is it was quite well understood that Scotland is a small country. And, I suppose that I felt a lot of things that people were doing, importing from China, importing from India. I mean, they were doing it very successfully. But in the beginning, I had not much money, not much capital. So trading sounded like a good idea, because I realized that, trading is something you can do with very little capital if you position yourself correctly. And international trade, because I suppose I moved the country, I always had fascination for learning about other cultures, other countries. And I thought, let's do some research and see if I can make a place for myself in international trade. And I started kind of learning about the basics, about finance, about logistics. A lot of that I did with help of Business Gateway. They used to run half-a-day courses. They were very, very helpful, kind of helped build the base for me. And I guess I started contacting customer suppliers around the world and realized that perhaps there was a case for me getting into the paper industry and supplying paper from Europe and USA to India, Indian subcontinent. That was the beginning. And that's what got finally, I think it took me 10 months of hard work and research, a lot of cold calling, sending emails, getting rejections. But I would say I kind of persevered, and I was like, let's see. And I gave myself a time frame to kind of keep going. If I don't make a breakthrough, say in a year's time, then I'll give up. But thankfully, 10 months, and I did have my first sale, and I was in business.
Over to me, I think this one, and it's actually, you said you persevered, so that kind of ties into my question, was what sort of unique challenges have you faced as a female business owner? That's what we wanted to kind of drill down into a little bit in this export space, and how have you overcome them?
Right. So I guess things are changing now. I started 22 years in a very male-dominated industry. It still is, which is paper and waste management is where I started in. First of all, the thing was, it was very difficult for people to take me seriously. As like people, I think there is still, I find like an underlying gender bias, but it's a subconscious one. I mean, people maybe want to help you, but they think a woman in business. So I think the first thing I took a mental note for myself that if I was serious about doing this, I'll have to work hard and I must know my stuff, because if I'm sitting in a meeting, already people are who are sitting there think I don't know anything or I shouldn't be here. So I guess, having done my research and homework properly, if they put any questions to me and I can answer them, then they'll take me seriously. And that used to happen quite a lot. So, say they threw a difficult question at me thinking, oh, she wouldn't know the answer, and I answered it correctly. Then suddenly the tables would turn in my favor and they would start taking me seriously. So one thing is, if a man starts in business, it's not something that is looked upon, oh, look, he's doing a business. But when a woman is starting business, we do face certain subconscious gender bias, like will she be able to do it, she'll have a family to manage, and those kind of subconscious bias play into almost every aspect of business, whether it's raising investment, whether it's about taking your suppliers taking you seriously, whether it's about taking your customers taking you seriously. I remember I used to get calls from many countries, especially when they used to come from Middle East. People would say to me they wanted to speak to Mr. Poonam Gupta, and I'd be like, there isn't a Mr. Poonam Gupta, it's just me. No, no, surely this is your father's business or your husband's business. So little less, they used to think I'm an assistant to my husband or perhaps my father whose business it is, and I'm just trying to help. But I guess I got through that phase with patience. Like it was difficult for people to understand that there's a woman trying to make space. Some people were very nice, I wouldn't say. Nobody was almost ever horrible to me, but it was just difficult for people to take me seriously, I used to think. But I think now, with so many more business being talked about, so much more talked about, uh, like regarding business, women leadership or women entrepreneurs, I think things are changing and things are much better than what they were 2 decades ago. Like when I meet a fellow businesswoman, I remember in the beginning, I used to attend these events and I used to be so many times I was the only woman, and not just the only woman and a woman of color. So, but I guess I used to tell myself that if I need to make it, then I need to stop thinking about what others think of me, how will they perceive me, and just stay focused on my goals and what I'm here to achieve.
So it sounds like that real determination and drive that you had. And I know you've kind of talked about now. So, I mean, my next question you've kind of answered, but I just wanted to see how do you feel like, a younger woman starting now, would it be easier for her? Or would you think they would still have to have that sort of drive and determination for starting like you did 22 years ago?
I think it's much more easier now. Like if I talk about my own self, I have my latest investments are both in women-led businesses. Now, you might say that I'm a woman myself, so maybe I don't see the gender, but it's not about investing in female businesses. It's just they are exceptional. And when they are exceptional, it doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman. You kind of acknowledge that they are exceptional. Are they investable? It's definitely way more easier because that's like I said, there's so many not just business leaders who are women, but also overall, there is more women leadership and women representation than there used to be 22 years ago. If a young girl wants to have 5 females who she wants to have as her role models in entrepreneurship, it's not very difficult for her to have those role models. That was very different, 20 years ago. So 20 years ago, when I started, my role models were people like, for example, Sir Richard Branson, or people like, like I would say political leaders. So Indira Gandhi who has been the only woman prime minister. I guess she was my role model because she kind of set an example in my eyes that it doesn't matter if you're a woman and she's been the only woman prime minister. Like if she could do it, then I can do it. It's just that mindset. But for younger girls today, it's so easy to find good role models Then there is mentorship on top of that. Then there are organizations like SDI, DBT, Business Gateway, and you all are coming together to showcase and to not just showcase, inspire, but also support these young budding entrepreneurs. And this is way more, there is way more support available today than there was 22 years ago. Having said that, I did start my business with £1,000 grant from Business Gateway, which
Thank
was
you for
very
that
helpful.
message. Crystal, have you got anything to add to what Poonan, was sort of commenting on there about how it was and how it is now? So maybe you could add some comments there.
Yeah, so I share Poonan's thoughts on that. So when I think back about when I used to work in the private sector and specifically selling into North African markets, so I used to go and meet with distributors and agents and that kind of credibility. So that was going back in the early 2020s, 25 years ago. And I had to work harder. So as Poonan mentioned, I was the only female in a lot of the meetings, well, all the meetings at that time. And just, anecdotally, I remember some of the distributors having words with me afterwards because they wanted to recruit me as their secretary. So that wasn't my role. I was there to do market development, to sell, the products overseas. But they saw me as this kind of secretary who was, going around these markets trying to sell products. So I think things have changed now, and I think the credibility is probably you don't have to work quite as hard now to be taken seriously, which is what Poonan was saying as well. So yeah, completely agree with Poonan's past experience on that.
I think that phrase, standing on the shoulders of giants, and I often think, when I started my career as well and how things have moved on, but it's people like Poonan, that are driving that forward, to make role models for trading internationally and doing business and some of the inspiring stories that people are hearing. So thank you for that. I think Jamie has our next question, if you're ready.
Do absolutely, Sally. Yeah, and we've touched on that a little bit as well in some of the answers kind of so far, and I think Poonam, you've kind of touched on it as well, just saying what the support networks are or wider resources are that you found really valuable when you were kind of first starting up, but also when you were scaling and trying to go to that kind of next stage and taking those first steps internationally. So you also mentioned sort of the Business Gateway side. You mentioned SDI. Alongside us, were there any other kind of organizations or any other types of support within that you found really valuable alongside the £1,000 grant, obviously?
Of course, it's not like, okay, for a startup, I did mention that when I started that I didn't have any money. So obviously that £1,000 for me went a long way. It helped me buy a computer. It helped me get my own phone lines. And it might sound like nothing today, but it was a huge game changer for me to be able to do, to have that access to that money. But beyond that, what really helped was at that time things, and even today, I guess we reach out. I used to reach out to multiple British high commissions around the world, and what they would be able to provide me was a list of potential customers. And then, I would try to reach them by phone. I would try to reach them by email to make a contact with them. And often say, I found 10 potential customers in a country, then I would try to see that, is there a way I could go and meet them? Obviously, at that time, when I started, there was not much Zoom. There was no Teams meeting. There wasn't even WhatsApp, I remember. So to call used to be expensive, but emails came in handy. Again, now, if we compare that time to today, if we go by the same help that I was able to get, if you have a list of customers, and there are now so many more organizations helping businesses connect, you can actually arrange meetings over the initial meetings can be arranged over Zoom call, for example, or Teams meeting, and you introduce each other and you work out, is there a place to do business together rather than having expensive trips to a certain country. Beyond that, like SDI, for example, SDI had a dedicated desk to India, and India was my first market. So that came in handy in the sense that there was lots of information that you need in international business. But when you get used to it, it's simplified. It becomes very simple. So if I'm going to a market, I want to know, for example, is there any particular documentation that I need? That kind of information is very helpful coming from DBT, SDI, sometimes even the local chambers actually. And again, if I was to summarize international trade, it's the combination of three things. One, do you have a market abroad? Like, have you done your research? Two, logistics. Third, finance. To me, this is these three things. If we know them and understand them right, it's not actually as difficult as people may perceive it to be. It's not much different to selling to somebody next door, and actually sometimes maybe even safer with right financial tools in place. And so I think if I were to think about organizations, I used every resource which was available. I used to call HMRC helpline and ask them, I'm trying to do this. Can you please tell me? And they were always helpful.
So that's really good. I mean, I'm delighted. I'm very impressed actually you managed to get help from HMRC's helpline as well, because even I've kind of struggled getting that, and we work quite closely with them at times as well. So really well done there. And again, it's an amazing story in terms of the determination, just kind of, again, that confidence as well to kind of know that you've got that and are able to access that support there. I think maybe Chris, I'll just come to you just kind of quickly and just touch on that. Obviously, Poonam's highlighted some of the support there, the fact that you're able to kind of contact the High Commissions, and again, fantastic support from yourselves and from kind of DBT. And I'll maybe just get you to touch a little bit on how Scottish Enterprise, SDI, DBT even can help companies reach the new markets.
Yeah, so we are here basically to help companies export, and that's at any stage of the journey. So for SDI, we're supporting ambitious companies to scale up, to grow your exports, and we do that by a number of things. So first of all, we've got the kind of awareness session that we run, just to alert companies about potential opportunities overseas. So that's a kind of early stage, market awareness raising. And then the next stage, if you like, would be to identify export opportunities for companies. So we do that we've got local offices around the world that let us know when there's a specific opportunity for specific sectors, specific geographies. We also prepare companies to export. So if you're a new exporter, for example, and you're not sure about how to enter a market, what your route to markets are going to be, about the kind of legal side of things, about the financial kind of things, how you're going to be charging companies overseas. We have a kind of program that prepare you for that as well. We also have a team looking at trading online, and again, there's a lot of support here to learn how to trade internationally, not online. So that can be a very good way for new companies to start trading before they even physically go into the market, find a platform to sell your products online. We can identify business partners overseas. Contact is everything with international trade. So, you can get in touch with our teams, and we can try and find the right business contacts, business partners. And then we can facilitate connections as well. So we have the Global Scot Network, for example, which is an online platform which anybody can access. You can register and access the platform. And we've got 1,200 Global Scots globally, and they're just here to help Scottish companies do business overseas by using their connection, their expertise, etc. So that's one of the things that we use. So that's just SDI, but also what we do is we refer companies to other organizations that can help you. So we work very closely with DBT. DBT have got embassy networks all around the world, so we use that. Those contacts again as leverage to help companies overseas. We ourselves have our own overseas offices, like I mentioned before as well, so we can use our trade staff overseas. We work very closely with Business Gateway, so depending where you're at the stage of your exporting, sometimes you're better off speaking with a Business Gateway advisor, linking in with SDI for specialist support. And then after that, you might go into the kind of account management with Scottish Enterprise. So it's whatever's right for the business at that stage of the business, and relationships will sometimes change. So a company could have a business gateway advisor to start with, and then move on to having a Scottish Enterprise account manager as well. We work very closely with Chamber of Commerce. So again, Chamber of Commerce have sometimes support that are different from what we have. And again, it's whatever's right for you at that time, and we'll try and find that kind of right contact for you at that stage.
That's brilliant, Christelle. Thank you very much. I'll maybe just ask, what's the best way for people to come in and contact and get in touch at that kind of first stage with yourselves?
So through our website, we have a lot of information and contact on the website. If anybody's got a question today, a specific question, I'm happy for people to email me, and I'd be happy if I can't answer the question, then I would be able to refer you to whoever in the organization or other organizations that can help as well. So more than happy to take any questions from people.
Thank you.
We're wanting to ask you about kind of cultural differences, Poonam, in trading internationally, and how you kind of managed and navigated that. And obviously you have your kind of dual nationality, one foot in India, one foot in Scotland, but we're just wanting to kind of maybe expand a little bit on that and doing your business, cultural differences.
So one of the most important aspects of international business is understanding the culture and respecting the cultural differences. So anytime we move into a certain market, we first try to understand what is the business culture like, what is the business environment like, and it takes time to kind of fine tune and understand it properly, but the basics are very important. And that's again where we often used to take help, and I think still do, of Scottish Enterprise and SDI, very helpful in giving that information. Certain countries can be more sensitive than the others. So for example, if you want to do business in Japan, you have to learn, very basic of their culture, but one, they appreciate it. Or two, if you walk in and you try to be an American from America, I mean, British, I still, can get away with the British diplomacy. And they're generally not loud. Most British, during business environment or meetings are not loud, but Japanese are very sensitive. And if they don't think that you have understood how they talk or conduct their business, I don't think that you're getting much far with them in cracking a deal. So the first and foremost rule is, okay, let's say we want to go into Mexico or any market, we understand the basics and we take advantage of the resources available to understand the basics. And then we have to bring our team with us, because one customer, logistics could be speaking to, finance could be speaking to, Egyptians have a very different way of speaking. Americans are very different. Like I said, Japanese, Indians can be very direct. And it's about, also educating our team to respect the cultural difference and not take everything personally, what they might perceive to be rude by an Indian or an Egyptian, or even a phrase misunderstood, which is classic example of things that sometimes go wrong. We will say to them, no, please don't think that they are being rude. This is just how they are. They come across that way. So I found it quite fascinating when I started doing business in China in the beginning. If two Chinese were speaking, and of course I don't understand the language, it often sounded like that they were arguing with each other. But I used to ask them, I said, did you just have an argument or a fight? They're, no, we are just having a laugh. And so, it's respecting, but also understanding. And you also need to understand that, don't get too nervous that I don't understand everything. What if something goes wrong? And that's where I think my golden rule is listen more, speak less. I mean, on this webinar, I'm speaking a lot, but generally my golden rule is listen more and speak less. And it's amazing how much you can learn by observing.
That's
so again,
yeah.
Yes, the most important aspect of international business is obviously people, and when it comes to people, it's culture. So it's very important to understand that.
I'm just wondering, Christelle, you mentioned the Global Scot programme, and does that help with these cultural differences?
Yeah, so cultural differences is huge, and again, as Bonan mentioned, and we do have a lot of support for cultural differences. So understanding, cultural differences. So we can do that through our market research team. You can ask the market research team to come and explain about whatever situation or country you're interested in. Also, we have teams, as I said, based overseas, and they tend to be from those local regions. So again, whenever somebody has a question, we can go directly to people who actually live in the market. And to give you an example, so with SDI, we are currently delivering a program for food and drink companies who want to access the US market. So we've got a series of workshops happening just now. We're in the middle of delivering this. And one of the big things that we are doing, so all the speakers that we are inviting to our program are directly from the US, so that we're liaising with those people directly from that culture. And one of the big things that we keep repeating during the program is how to behave in front of a US buyer, and the differences between speaking to a buyer from the UK and the difference with having to speak to a US buyer. And it's all about they don't have the time, they don't, you have to be very quick in making your pitch. You can't be speaking about the weather for 10 minutes before the meeting starts. British people sometimes apologize, are very humble. And again, and this is not us, this is the local buyers who are coming into our course saying, we don't have time for any of this. You need to be very clear. You need to be bullish. You need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in your product. So we're actually training companies to do a very quick 5-minute pitch, so that whenever they have that opportunity to meet with an importer, a buyer, a contact in the US, it's in front of their mind, and they can just deliver that pitch. So that's just an example of what we're doing right now with the US. But I've got lots of colleagues in lots of different teams who do similar things in lots of different markets in the world, because it's so important. You can sometimes ruin your chances to access a new market just because you don't understand the local culture, or you've said something that maybe is going to upset somebody without even knowing, and the door's shut, and it's a missed opportunity for the business. So yeah, very important aspect of trading internationally.
Thank you. Jamie, did you have the next question?
I do, yeah, and it's actually one that's quite relevant. So I saw Caroline, there's a comment in the chat from Caroline around the e-commerce side as well, and we'll maybe pick up separately on that, Caroline, because there's maybe some support that we can suggest, and we'll maybe pick that off and contact you afterwards. But the next question I had was really just around the kind of role of digital technology and e-commerce, and the kind of role that has played for you, Poonam, in kind of helping you reach your international customers, but also, Christel, the kind of the support that's available from SDI to help people with their e-commerce as well. So maybe come to you first, Poonam, and then over to you, Christel.
The advancement in obviously e-commerce and technology on the whole in last 22 years, even actually when I started in business, there was internet available. And I can only just imagine how business used to be done. It would have been obviously very, very different and very, very lengthy, long process before the internet came into play for people who wanted to work in international space. It's very good because any company, you could be anywhere in the world. With a website, you're already visible. So you are visible to everybody around the world. Somebody from China can see you, somebody from Vietnam can see you. I think what has helped over the years, we have used, our website is now in multiple languages. Obviously, that helps with the SEOs and the reach in various countries. With e-commerce, even an SME can practically take a product and ship it anywhere in the world. And I think that boosts your chances to access many, many markets. And obviously for any business who's looking to work in multiple markets or work at e-commerce, having your website, having clear pitch, on your website as to what you do really helps reaching that target audience. And obviously, add to that, now we talk about, say, when there are consumer products. So I know a company who was telling me how they wanted to break into China, and they had a very limited budget. So they used a strategy where they gave a Chinese influencer a product to try. It didn't cost them that much money. And overnight their product went viral and they sold out. So I mean, all of these things are something to learn from, and I'm sure that in the recent courses regarding e-commerce and all, I think it was Scottish Enterprise I attended last, and all of these strategies were being talked about, which are very helpful to access international markets.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Poonam. And Crystal, I'll maybe just bring you in as well. Just is any specific support within Scottish Enterprise around the e-commerce side? 'Cause again, obviously, I think sometimes people think it's exporting from day one, and it's not necessarily obviously the case now. It's the equal in terms of, in fact, probably more e-commerce side as well going out.
Exactly. Yeah. So we actually have a dedicated team with SDI who looks after that kind of e-commerce. So they deliver training. We have different events. They deliver masterclasses. They've recently had a learning journey to the Amazon warehouse in Dublin. So that took place last week. All the support that we have is free of charge to access for companies. And the way to find that support is to go on our website, to have a look at what events are coming up and sign up very easily to these kind of events. The next physical event from that team is going to be at the Digit Expo. So that's taking place in Edinburgh in November. I think it might be the 27th of November. So the team's going to be present there. They're actually going to have a stand at the Digit Expo. We're organizing a symposium that my colleagues are setting up with different speakers. So we were present there last year for the first time, and our events were actually fully subscribed. We actually had to turn people down because of the quality of the speakers that were coming to discuss the kind of opportunities selling online for product-based companies and also for service-based companies. There's a bit of a differentiation on that. So this year, my colleagues are inviting new speakers. So the topics discussed are going to be new, but again, very relevant and what's going on in the world today. So that's just to give you a flavor of what our e-commerce teams are doing. But the best way is just, as I said, to check online just to see what's coming up, because there's new events coming up all the time online.
Thanks. Somebody...
I've got a question about Poonam, and I'm wondering if you've encountered any barriers to accessing finance or investment to kind of your export growth.
I think I touched upon that earlier,
Yeah.
that things are getting easier now. But I guess when I started in business, there is an underlying gender bias, which kind of plays into everything, not just buying and selling, but also finance. Thankfully for me, that is something I'd like to go back and change. I didn't have any debt for the first 5 years. So I was kind of quite well established before I went to the bank and asked them for money. Actually, it also might have been that they came to me and offered money to say, by the way, we are seeing that you're doing this. It was year on year we were growing, and they offered credit facilities. Now, there is a study which says most women are debt averse. They don't like to take debt. I was guilty of that too. I didn't quite like in the beginning taking debt, but I look at it differently now. I do meet a lot of young women entrepreneurs who are maybe starting up or trying to grow their business. And they would often say that they find it hard to raise investment. And I generally tell them that rather than thinking about, I am finding it hard to get investment because I'm a woman and people are not taking me seriously, I tell them kind of focus on refining your pitch. And I also tell them there are multiple funds now who are categorically looking and investing in women entrepreneurs, which was never a case 2 decades ago. So I'm kind of helping them that way. But I think overall, when we look around the world, it's, I guess, when we look at the overall entrepreneurial landscape, it's still dominated by men. And unfortunately, it will take time to finally completely get over that gender bias, but things are definitely going in the right direction. So I have faith what everybody has to, and still do sometimes, which is quite annoying.
Christelle, is there any sort of support particularly around for female-led businesses, around access and finance and investment. What sort of help do SDI have around that, if there's anything? I know there was a report now, there was a figure about 24% of women, you know, about access and finance. And I remember 20 odd years ago, it was like 4%. So as Poonan says, things have improved, but there's still obviously a bit of work to do. So is there any kind of comments around that?
Yeah, so out with SDI, with more within kind of Scottish Enterprise, which isn't my expertise, we have teams who look at finance and raising investment. I mean, certainly, you could speak to my colleagues in that field. I know that Scottish Enterprise also has a program called Pathway to Scale, and that's a program that's open for female-led businesses only. Which is quite an intensive program, working with those individuals over quite a long time. And one of the things that the program looks after is raising investment. So yes, we do have support more within the Scottish Enterprise side of things.
That's interesting. I'm just trying to find the link to post in there for that Pathways to Scale. So, Jamie, have you got the next question?
Just before we go on to the kind of, so I was just going to ask quickly, Christelle, and just I seem to remember there's also kind of specific support around export finance available for companies as well. Is that through yourselves that you can make?
So that's through UK, it's called UKEF, UK Export Finance, and that's part of the DBT, the Department for Trade, Business and Trade, and that's available for, again, any company who want to speak to that team. There's two contacts in Scotland working for UK Export Finance. And they look at loans, they look at markets where maybe there's a risk associated, so they do insurances. They look at sometimes examples where it's hard to raise finance with certain banks, for example. They've got a whole list of contacts within the financial service that they can access for companies. So there's no promises made. You know, they'll always say to people that they can only offer export finance if they find a financial institution to work with. But again, they're very well connected. So that certainly helps companies for that kind of first approach, rather than a company making a contact themselves and through the two, and they're both female as well, those UKEF staff working in Scotland. So more than willing to help. And again, I'm happy to put you in touch with UK Export Finance if you want to pursue that avenue.
Thank you. I think, you know, just a sort of question part of the session before we maybe open up to a few questions from you, from the audience. I always like to ask this question at the end is, what one piece of advice would you give to female-led business thinking about exporting? So sort of Poonan, if you could maybe give us a nugget.
I would just say for women entrepreneurs, there is lots of support available around now, and don't let your gender kind of limit you from achieving whatever you have dreamt of. And in terms of personal, I would say, which is again something I didn't do right on a timely basis, that, you know, with friends and family, ask for that support. You'd be surprised how much people are willing to support. One story I'd quickly share here is, like, I used to travel with my older one. I have traveled with her before she was 1 year old across the world, attending multiple meetings. And no matter which culture or which country I went to, I found support in terms of people being very tolerant about her being present in these massive boardrooms, sitting in a corner. And I think one thing I'd say to women entrepreneurs is, please go out there and try and tap into, whether it's Scottish Enterprise, Business Gateway, SDI, DBT. There's so much support and help available, and don't let your gender limit you, and have that confidence that you can do it as well as anybody else can.
Thank you. That's a great message. So, Christelle, is there any kind of piece of advice for anybody that's thinking about starting to trade internationally you like to give?
Yeah, so the support aspect is, is huge, and sometimes it can be overwhelming because there's so much support out there, and it's like, well, where do you start? And and having those conversations with people who can help, I think sometimes saves a lot of time. We certainly have the market research support within Scottish Enterprise, and I would say, for anybody looking at exporting into a new market or exporting for the first time, I would reach out to them. Again, it's a service that's accessible free of charge. We've got teams of dedicated researchers who are very experienced, very knowledgeable. They have a list of databases that they can access for finding your competition, your potential customers, for a list of agents, distributor. I've used the service myself when I used to run overseas missions with companies. So that would be my first port of call, just to speak to these advisors, again, accessible through the Scottish Enterprise website, and do your research. That would be my advice before you go to any market. Trying to accessing the wrong market for various reasons can be very costly, very damaging for your company. So do your market research, do your homework, do your due diligence, and then, like Ponan was saying, just connect with anybody you can, really, to try and make this happen. Perseverance, I think, is a huge thing, but we're here to help.
I think that kind of navigating the landscape, and Poonan's message was you asked everybody for help, but sometimes kind of that can be overwhelming. So it's kind of that, Business Gateway local offices are based all over Scotland, quite often the local councils, and I've put a link to our website with the local offices. So if you've not already connected in, and Business Gateway advisors will be able to signpost you into services with Christelle and Scottish Enterprise and the local Chamber of Commerce. And that's really what our business advisors' huge strength is to have these connections with people like SDI and help you navigate that as well. So I think a first protocol from Jamie and I's point of view is always contact your local Business Gateway office first, and they will help you navigate. And also there is a lot of things out there as well, it's that market research. You can access that through our Business Gateway website. I'll put the link to that in a minute, but I think Jamie and I would just like to ask if there's any questions that anybody has, or did you see any questions in the chat there, Jamie?
Yeah, I think I spotted one question earlier on from, I think it was Jen, just asking around if there was any particular conditions on the support available from SDI. Christelle, if there's any sort of conditions attached to, does a business need to be a certain size, or does it matter if you're already an existing, but if you started trading, or can you access that if you're still thinking about and you're still setting up? So if there's any kind of conditions around that, but whilst we can answer that one, if you have got any other questions, by all means, please put them into the chat and we'll kind of raise them and put them forward.
So we do have support that is available generically for any business from any sector, as long as you're based in Scotland. And back to our market research team, they would, if you've got an idea or a project, they would probably help you as well instead of doing, some kind of market research. We do have training program and events that companies can access. And again, that's open to any company from any sector. When we go to the kind of more one-on-one support, then we do have eligibility criteria. So for example, we have a team of specialists, international trade specialists working in Scotland, and those specialists are divided into 3 sectors. So we have the science and tech team, we have the energy transition team, and we have the consumer industries team. And those are the 3 sectors that we cover. So if you're not within those 3 sectors and you want one-on-one support, it might not be possible for us to deliver that because we just don't have the expertise. Also, those teams cannot work with every business in Scotland. So we look for businesses who are ambitious and who are going to be transformational in terms of your kind of product, your services, and who want to succeed in overseas market. And again, you can make an approach through your Business Gateway advisor. If you're in a kind of early stage company or a young company, speak to your Business Gateway advisor, and they would be the one making contacts with our specialist teams. So the support is there, and as I said, we do have some, some eligibility criteria for working with companies, and those specialist team would also open the doors to our overseas offices for specific inquiries as well for you. So I would say we're here for at all the kind of stage of your journey. We're here for very early stage, even pre-revenue companies can definitely speak to us and get access to our support. And then again, it's depending where you're at in your export journey, then the support that you will get from us will change slightly depending on what needs you have and the ambitions that you have. So again, like I've said before, it's we don't have a one fits all kind of approach. It's really working with you to decide where you're at and what you need from us for you to succeed in overseas market. We're here to help companies succeed overseas. That's our role. That's what we're trying to achieve.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Crystal. That's really good. I've got one more kind of question which has come into the chat just now that I'll just kind of pick up. That's from Monica, just saying she'd love to open up our online business to the US market, targeting early years nurseries, and just saying, do I contact Business Gateway first, or is there information available to look at first? And I think in a way, by all means, absolutely contact your kind of local Business Gateway first, engage with them, because there's probably a wider range of support that they can also offer. But I suspect also coming through yourselves at SDI, Christelle, there'll be specific resources around that. You've mentioned the kind of market research reports that are available. Anything else that would be useful to Monica in this situation?
So again, I would I would have a look at our website to see what the e-commerce team delivers in terms of that. And I've mentioned the Digit Expo that's taking place in November. Again, that room is going to be full of people who have anything to do with trading online. Our teams are going to be there as well. Like I said, we have a booth there for the day. So engage in whatever events and activity you can see that's happening locally. If you go and attend Digit Expo, you can actually make a connection with our staff who are going to be there in person. So yeah.
Thank you very much, and yeah, thanks, Monica, for the question. Again, we've got a little bit of time left, so if there are any other questions that
I was just thinking, actually, Poonan, you mentioned sort of mentoring. And I wondered if you specifically had a mentor, or maybe you still do have a mentor.
I didn't have a mentor when I started because I had just arrived in Scotland. So you can imagine my social circle was quite limited. But over the years, I have then, as I made contact with people, there were people who were more successful, I think, in business, and they kind of, in a way, you can say, filled in the role for mentor. But I have over the years mentored a lot of businesses as well. And I certainly have benefited from various experiences of various business people that I meet during events, and we discuss, like, say, a common problem or how do we overcome that. And to me, mentorship is something which can really propel somebody's learning. And I always say life is too short. It's too short to make all your mistakes and learn from them. But, if you can learn from somebody's mistakes and they can tell you the key lessons, it is something that helps kind of understand and educate yourself faster. Entrepreneurship, it can be quite lonely place to be, but being a part of a network with fellow entrepreneurs, doesn't matter if their businesses are kind of smaller than yours or bigger than yours, all of them have their benefits. Like, you could be acting as a mentor for somebody who's trying to make it, and you could be mentored by somebody who's already done it.
Yeah. And I've heard stories from businesses in the past that somebody that they perceive as their competition, they've actually asked for mentorship, and that, quite often in female circles and networking, even if you're kind of perceived as competition, there is that kind of really helpful advice and mentorship that goes on, that people wanting each other to succeed, that kind of happens in these networking events and things as well. Christelle, are you aware of any mentorship programs that are kind of useful that people can join around exporting in particular?
So maybe not mentorship as such, but we do have the Global Scot Network, and Global Scots can be used for a variety of things. So we sometimes ask them to come and speak to a group of companies as a kind of group, but they also can support companies one-on-one with very specific kind of asks. So the way to reach Global Scot is to go on the Global Scot platform. As I said, register. It's free of charge to register and make connections with. So we've got Global Scots in lots of different geographies and lots of different sectors. If you'd rather speak to another female-led business who's a Global Scot, we have lots of female Global Scots. So and just make an ask. So some of them have ended up mentoring a little bit companies. If you're trying to access a market that's very culturally different from your own, then again, they can help you in terms of understanding the local culture, the do's and don'ts. There's not really a one task that Global Scot are tasked with. They're here to help, and they don't get paid for their service. They're just here literally to help Scottish companies in international markets. And a lot of them are based overseas. Some of them are based in the UK. So it's just a case of finding the right fit and starting that conversation with the Global Scots.
I've popped a link in the chat there for anybody that wants to make that connection. And again, we mentioned the Digit Expo again, and I put the link in that to register for that on the 27th of November. I think it'll be a busy event. It's at the International Conference Centre in Edinburgh on the 27th of November. So, and I believe it's free to register. So if you're around in Edinburgh that day, it sounds like there's going to be a lot going on, which is super. So Jamie, I'm not sure if you've noticed any other final questions, or you have any final questions?
I've not seen any other final questions. If you've got a very quick question, you could put it in the chat just now. We'll try and get answered very quickly. One thing I was going to come back to is I think Caroline had put a comment in earlier just around needing some support around e-commerce in particular. And we've touched on it a little bit, but just again, Caroline, just to say, if you are in touch with your local business gateway, get in touch with your business gateway advisor, see what support they can provide you with. There is other webinars that we run which specifically look around the sort of e-commerce and the trading side. So have a look and see what you can do around that as well, and see if you can get onto those as well. And again, much wider for everyone. If you haven't already looked at the range of webinars that are out there through Business Gateway, please go and have a look at them. Incredibly well received, and we've just been looking at kind of results from last month, and the feedback we're getting from them is phenomenal. Sort of 99% of the people that attend say they would recommend them to others. So they're really, really valuable and really useful. So please make use of them. And I don't see other questions coming in, so I think that is probably us just about there. Thanks, Sally, just sticking the extra links in there. And there is also a feedback link that Sally has put into the chat as well. So again, if you've enjoyed today, if you'd like to see improvements to the webinars, please use that link and let us know what you think. Let us know what other topics you would like to see as well, so we can go and arrange those too. I think that is probably us. Just last thing is just to say thank you very much to you all for your time, but also a huge amount of thanks on behalf of you all to Poonam and to Christelle for your time today and for sharing your stories and your experience. It's really incredible. Poonam, incredibly inspirational story that you've got. And I'm sure there's lots of people on the call now looking at you and saying, that's the inspiration that I want to kind of go and emulate as well. So thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, and sorry about the background noise which I had to put up with.
I think on brand at the airport, trading internationally and whizzing around the world. So thank you so much for doing that.
Thanks. And again, Crystal, thank you very much as well, and appreciate kind of all the kind of support that you've kind of recommended today. I'm sure people will be accessing those links and having a look at that as well. So I think that's probably us for today, but just to say again, thank you all very much for your time today. Hope you've all enjoyed the session. By all means, give us the feedback and follow that link in the chat for that. And we hope you enjoy the rest of the day, and hope you will come again to one of our Business Gateway sessions.
Yes. Keep in touch. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.